Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, 1st chapter, entitled The Activities of Maharaj Priyavrata. Text number 3. Mahatam khalu viprarshe uttama shloka padayoh chaya nirvrata chittanam na kutumbe spruha matihi. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. Elevated Mahatmas who have taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are fully satiated by the shade of those lotus feet. Their consciousness cannot possibly become attached to family members. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Narottam Das Thakura has sung Nitai Pada Kamala Koti Chandra Sushitala Echayai Jagat Judai. He describes the shade of the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda as being so nice and cooling that all materialists who are always in the blazing fire of material activities may come under the shade of his lotus feet and be fully relieved and satiated. The distinction between family life and spiritual life can be experienced by any person who has undergone the tribulations of living with a family. One who comes under the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord never becomes attracted by the activities of family life. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 2:59, Param Drishtva Nivartate. One gives up lower engagements when he experiences a higher taste. Thus, one becomes detached from family life as soon as he comes under the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport.
So we are seeing in this part of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Parikshit Maharaj has begun to ask some questions in this chapter and in this verse also. He's addressing Shukadev Goswami as Viprarshe, Vipra Rishi. Just like we have Raja Rishi, like that Vipra Rishi, the great sage among the Brahmanas, Rishi among the Brahmanas, Vipras. Mahatam Khalu Viprarshe. He's asking about Priyavrata because in the previous chapter, in the last chapter of the 4th canto, Shukadev Goswami made a reference to Priyavrata as a great devotee who had renounced everything in this world, and then he became a householder and ruled the kingdom with 2 wives and many children. So when Parikshit heard that, he was intrigued. Viprarshe, how is it? You said that he was a great devotee, fully renounced, and you are saying he became a householder and he started ruling the kingdom. How could all this happen? So the same spirit of enquiry in today's verse. Mahatam khalu viprarshe uttama shloka padayo chaya nirvrutha chittana na kutumbe spruhamatihi. Mahatam, those great devotees who have taken shelter of uttama shloka padayo chaya, who have come under the shade, chaya, of uttama shloka pada, uttama shloka padayo chaya. And what happens to them is that nirvrutha chittana, completely satisfied chitta. Their consciousness is completely satisfied. And such great persons, na kutumbe na spruha matihi, about kutumbas, household affairs, family affairs, kutumba, spruha matihi, their consciousness cannot be attached, spruha, na spruha matihi kutumbe. So, elevated Mahatmas, Mahatam, who have taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Uttama Shloka Padayoho, are fully satiated, Nirvrutha Chitta, by the shade of those lotus feet, Padayoho Chaya. their consciousness, matihi, cannot possibly become attached, spruha, to family members, kutumbe. So this is the interesting question that Parikshit has brought up, and Bhagavatam is going to teach us many aspects of devotional service, and this is another important aspect that is going to come out in this discussion. So some of the expressions that Parikshit has used helps us as devotees, as sadhakas. We can learn certain things from this verse. First is nirvrita chitta. To come to a stage, a devotee, his consciousness, chitta, is supposed to be nirvrita chitta. Nirvrita means completely satisfied, tranquil, not agitated, very peaceful, at ease. So devotees are in that state of consciousness, nirvrita chitta. The opposite, to appreciate, sometimes we may have to understand the opposite position. So what is the opposite of nirvrita chitta? That very satisfied consciousness. There are many expressions in Krishna consciousness which describes the opposite situation. One is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained, bhava mahadavagni. Bhava means material existence, our life here. Bhava mahadavagni. Dava means forest. Agni means forest fire. Dava Agni means forest fire. So this material existence or material consciousness means when one is in a state of consciousness of being in a forest fire, full of anxiety and burning in the heart. So it's definitely not a very peaceful situation. And so that is the state of existence of a normal conditioned soul. Another expression that is used, again we sing in the morning prayers, samsara dava nala leedha loka. Leedha means afflicted. Leedha loka. Loka is referring to the general populace. Leedha loka, afflicted population. What are they afflicted? Dava anala. Again, forest fire. And what is this forest fire? Samsara dava anala leedha loka. So human population which is afflicted by this forest fire. And Prabhupada explains that how forest fire is, when there is a fire in the forest, the animals are in great distress. They're running here, there. But everywhere, where can they run? Everywhere they are engulfed with fire, and they just get burnt. So living entities in this material world, we are trying to find solutions for the problems. Run here, run there, run different directions. But one problem after another. Even if one has solved all problems, then finally there is a death problem, which we cannot escape. And then we have to submit ourselves to that problem. And finally we get charred in this material existence. So samsara davan ala leedha loka is another expression, another expression of our situation in this world. Another third one that is explained by Narottam Das Thakur, great devotee. Samsara vishanale diva nishihi ajwale. This is another very interesting way of saying samsara vishanale. Earlier two were saying anala means fire. Narottam Das Thakur is further saying this is vishanala, these poisonous flames. So flame itself is, can singe us. Imagine it's poisonous flame. So where is the hope? This samsara is vishanale. And divanishi hiya jwale. And I have allowed this poisonous flame to blaze day and night in my heart. So divanishi hiya jwale. Judaite na koinu upai. And I have not found a relief for this. So these are great statements by devotees. Actually, the first step is to find relief, is to identify there is a fire. If you don't even see there is a fire, you will not even try to put it out. Right? You will think, okay, fire, that's part of it. So mostly it happens in our lives. We don't even recognize what's actually going on in our heart unless great devotees tell us what is happening to us in our life. The material desires are driving us, and they are driving everybody in this world. And people don't even realize that how they are being driven by these material desires. And they are running here and there and not having the peace. So they don't even come to recognize that there is a fire blazing in my heart. Divanishi hiya jwale. Day and night it is blazing. And the material atmosphere in Kali Yuga encourages that blazing of the fire. You must be highly motivated. You must be highly charged up. You must be dreaming big. You must try to do, all these things just to increase that blazing fire. And everyone thinks, yes, I must be like that. And so they don't even understand. And as a result, like I was talking to somebody recently, and we are reading also in the newspapers almost every few months. The number of suicides in IITs in our country is increasing year after year. So these are the best students in our country. They went through the most rigorous tests, and they have come to the most premier institution in the world. They say if you don't get in any of the IIT, you can go and try in MIT or Harvard. It's so difficult to get into IIT. So they have made it to those premier institutes. And then we hear young boys, young girls, students in these institutes, they just jumped off or hung themselves to a fan or something. And how sad. How sad this is. Of course, they are trying to find solution. Someone came up with an idea that you must have a fan, special kind of a fan in IITs. When you try to load it, it opens up and it falls down. Good solution. Maybe. But I think there must be something more deeper, much more serious solution. This is a serious problem. It's actually because they are being charged up like that with a lot of material desires, and sometimes they may not be able to meet the expectation of the peers, of the family, of friends, relatives, and they don't know what's going to happen to them, and they think that just better end my life. Or we don't know what goes on in different people's cases. It must be different stories. But the fact is that they didn't know what they are going through and how there is an alternative, much more happy situation. They were not trained, they were not educated, they were not made aware of these alternatives to life. They think that life is just one-dimensional, as they have been told by the parents, family, society. And if they find difficulties in that one-dimensional life, unidirectional life, they think that they must end their lives. So, this whole materialism, that you must accomplish, you must make it big, you must achieve this, all of these things, actually, it increases the Rajoguna in the living entity's consciousness. And Kali Yuga is especially charged with Rajoguna and Tamoguna. Tamoguna characterized by ignorance of true knowledge and ignorance of alternate life. What is the real purpose of life? And Rajoguna is too much of agitation. So, this is what is actually happening, and people don't even recognize. As devotees, we have to become more sensitive to our own consciousness, sensitive to our own, the workings of our mind, how my mind is working. Devotees have to become sensitive about it. Devotees have to become introspective about it, watchful about the wanderings of the mind. That's expected of a devotee. And if we have to become watchful of the mind, it requires a certain amount of tranquility in life. If somebody is chasing, I remember when I was I was still in college and I was chanting. And I came to the temple here in Bangalore temple, Gaur Nitai temple, not very far from here. And then I asked one devotee, I'm trying to chant, but my mind is, I'm not able to focus on the chanting. So what should I do? And then the devotee told me, he was a simple young devotee. It stuck in my mind and I still see that it is very valuable. Then he quoted this verse, Bhogaishvarya prasaktana taya pahruta chetasam vyavasayatmika buddhi samadhav na vidhiyate. He quoted that verse, showed me the Bhagavad Gita, and he told me to read that one. That if our Bhogaishvarya prasaktana taya pahruta chetasam, if our minds are attached to Bhoga and Aishvarya, if we are attached to enjoyment in this world, Bhoga and Aishvarya and opulence. You see opulence and then you see enjoyment, opportunities for enjoyment in this world. And if we are attached to it, and taya apahrita chetasam, and if we are carried away by these concepts of happiness, enjoyment, and opulence, affluence, prosperity, if we are carried away by that, if we have a value system which says, wow, that's a great thing, I must run after that. Taya pahruta chetasam vyavasayatmika buddhi samadhav na vidhiyate. Samadhav, that absorption that we want when we want to chant with absorption, when we want to chant Hare Krishna, hear the holy name, practice Krishna consciousness, be absorbed in a higher consciousness. Samadhav na vidhiyate, does not come about. That determination will not come about if we are attached. Just like Kunti Devi also says, Janma Ishwarya Shruta Shribir Edamana Madav Puman Naivarhatya Abhidhatum Vai Tvama Kinchana Gochara. It is actually, if you read the purport to this verse, Kunti Devi's prayer, Prabhupada points out that how there is a quality to chanting. She's actually referring to Abhidhatum. Abhidhatum means to call out Krishna. So she's saying one cannot call out to Krishna if one is Janma Ishwarya Shruta Shribhir Edamana Madav Puman. If someone is edamana, edamana is to amplify it, expand it. If one is thinking of expanding and amplifying Janma, Aishwarya, Shruta, Shri, great birth, great wealth, great beauty, great learning, I should be known as a very learned person. Edamana madah puman. And if one is intoxicated, see, these are exactly what is happening in the material world. This is what conditioned souls are. They are intoxicated with the idea of expanding and amplifying Janma, Aishwarya, Shruta, Shri. If someone is in that consciousness, naiva arhati, one cannot do. Naiva arhati abhidhatum vai. One cannot call out feelingly. That's how Prabhupada translates. One cannot call out feelingly. So, we must realize how actually different our consciousness, when we are attached to sense gratification, gross and subtle. There is gross attachment to sense gratification, to gratify our senses in different ways, with Vishaya, with Indriya Vishaya, and subtle gratification in the form of admiration, in the form of standing out, in the form of distinction, in the form of adoration by others. See, these are the tricks of Maya. We are, as a spiritual organization, as a spiritual society, we have a culture of being watchful towards these things. You see, sometimes devotees, actually our philosophy is so wonderful, and Srila Prabhupada's explanation. Somebody was actually pointing out recently, one intelligent man. He was saying that how you in ISKCON, you devotees, are all very, very intelligent devotees you are attracting. Then why is it so? Why is it that so many intelligent people in the country we hear, they are joining ISKCON and all that? So actually I was telling him that Srila Prabhupada's presentation is very, very rational. For a rational mind, Prabhupada has given all the sound reasoning. And that's the beauty of Srila Prabhupada's presentation. The way Prabhupada presented all the different spiritual concepts. It's very, very sad for any inquisitive mind, what is this life about? Who am I? What this is? Why there is suffering? Why even though good people are suffering? This is a big question. A lot of people have. Such a nice, they were all good people, but they are suffering, so there is no God. A lot of people come to this kind of a conclusion like that out of disappointment because they have not heard alternative explanations. So, Srila Prabhupada has expounded it so well, and not only Prabhupada has written it so well, and the sadhana program that Prabhupada has designed for us, we hear every day, we read, we are supposed to read and absorb and talk about it. And so sometimes we, in some number of years, a devotee may learn how to speak this philosophy very well, very eloquently, very nicely, and people will be, so nice, you are explaining. And then people will glorify us. This happens, right? Because you talk a little bit philosophy in Kali Yuga. Nobody knows any philosophy. Even the other religious, all the philosophy, spiritual organizations, they have no philosophy at all. Just some smell, breathe nicely and something at all they keep teaching. When compared to all that, ours is sound philosophy. Talk to anybody, they'll get impressed. And then they'll say, you are so learned person. And they'll say I mean, we are only saying few things that Prabhupada has taught us, and we should not get carried away. There is a tendency that, oh, I'm such a good preacher. See how nicely I could preach. Everybody was, they were just hearing me, listening to my philosophy. So nicely I was explaining. And then they admired me. See, that's a trick. And immediately we start thinking, I must continue to speak nice philosophy. Why? Not because I want to share this knowledge. This is Krishna's message. Because I get nice admiration. One can get stuck with that. One's motivation to speak philosophy can become the admiration one gets. This is subtle sense gratification. So, in a spiritual organization like ours, where we are aspiring to come to higher and higher states of consciousness, because Bhagavatam, just see these words, Bhagavatam is pointing out, Nirvrita Chitta, completely satisfied. Very, very satisfied consciousness. I remember when I was in college, exams come every few months, exams, tests, something, and you have to study well. Right? And then you have to study well and you have to get marks, and there's comparison and who got highest marks and all those things. So, and we are all part of that race, right? We were all part of that race, trying to study well. So I got once a little bit, started thinking, what's the big deal? Even if I study well and I get marks, and then everybody will say, oh, nice marks, oh, got this much. But then after a few days, they'll also keep quiet. They won't, keep doing the same thing. And again, another test comes. Another exam comes. Again, I have to study well because I have to prove myself again. What is this going on again and again? Is there one final exam? One exam. I passed that one. After that, no more. Is there one final thing that I do that? So it was, again and again study, do something, and then again everybody will forget. Again another exam comes. Again I have to it's chasing this admiration, being admired by people. What a crazy thing this is. It puts you in so much anxiety. Then, of course, then I came in touch with Krishna consciousness and then read in Srila Prabhupada's books. Yam labdva cha param labham manyate nadikam tata. There is one thing you can achieve. Once you achieve that, you will see that there is no higher thing to be achieved. Because that's the highest. You see? So, I'm sorry. There is that state of consciousness, nirvrita chitta, where one becomes fully satisfied. That's the state of consciousness Bhagavatam wants to offer. It's called nirvrita chitta. Fully satisfied. Just like when you are very hungry, you are waiting for good food, and then you eat. Sometimes we may even overeat. And then after you are overeaten, another plate, a full plate, something is brought to you. Hey, no, I'm fully satisfied. If somebody forces you, no, I don't want. See, because you're satisfied. Actually, the conditioned soul consciousness is never satisfied. That also Krishna explains. Dushpurena analena cha. Again, another fire example. Avritam gnanametena gnanino nityavairina kamarupena kaunteya dushpurena analena cha. This kama is such that sense gratification is such, gross or subtle, is such that dushpurena, Purena means Purena. You eat well, oh Purena, I have complete now, no more. This kama is such that Dushpurena analena cha. It's a blazing fire which can never be satiated. That is the nature of kama rupa, the pursuit of kama. And that is what we are all pursuing. We have been pursuing it for ages, for life after life. And now, having come to spiritual life, now at least we should not pursue. You see? But it's not easy to give it up. Kama rupena dushpurena lalena cha. This come to this satiated consciousness. So here in today's verse, Parikshit Maharaj is disclosing there is a way how to come to that satiated consciousness. What is that formula? Uttama shloka padayo chaya. To come under the shade of the lotus feet of Krishna. Uttama shloka. So, in spiritual life, the spiritual culture is how we can come to the shade of the lotus feet of Krishna, where we will become nirvrita chitta, we will become peaceful and satisfied, and not run after gross or subtle gratification of the senses. So, if we don't learn this, there is a fire blazing. Diva nishihi ajvale. Day and night this is blazing in my heart, and I must put it out. If we don't come to this realization, then we will not seek. Only when you see fire, you will look for a fire extinguisher. If you don't even see fire, you will not look for a fire extinguisher. And the fire extinguisher, the one which can divanishihi ajvale, that which can put out this fire, is uttama shloka padayo chaya. And Prabhupada has quoted in the purport, Narottam Das Thakur has sung, Nitai pada kamala, koti chandra sushitala, e chaya jagata judai. So, Narottam Das Thakur wrote this song. He called this song title of the song is Manashiksha. It's an instruction to the mind. How often we are in touch with the mind? Actually, we are in touch with the mind always. So mind is constantly guiding our consciousness. Consciousness is the awareness. Mind performs certain functions. Intelligence performs certain functions. These are all cognitive functions. But consciousness is the awareness of the mental thoughts. We are conscious of our thoughts. We are conscious of our intelligence. So, in Vedic description of psychology, there is mind, there is sense, there is intelligence, and there is a sense of identity, ahamkara. Aham is self-identity. Ahamkara means something that creates or makes that identity, ahankara. So, and usually it is the false ahankara. I am man, I am woman, I am intelligent man. I'm this many years old. This is the ahankara. Identity. So, but thinking, intellectual function, discerning good from wrong, wrong from right, good from bad, problem solving, memory, these are all features of intelligence. Actually, these are all cognitive functions. And soul has all of these cognitive functions intrinsically. But in the material world, some of the cognitive functions are delegated to different material elements. There is a material element called the mind, which is the cognitive function of the soul of creating thoughts is delegated to the mind. And the cognitive function of discerning is delegated to intelligence. The cognitive function of having an identity is delegated to ahankara. And cognitive function is not just, it's not just at the cognitive level, it manifests itself into activities. And that is delegated to the gross senses, karma indriya and jnana indriyas. So the soul, when it comes into the material world, it hands over, delegates all of some of these cognitive functions to different things, and that's how we get a bhumirapo nalo vayuhu kammano buddhirevacha. We get a material body with these 8 elements. And apart from that, we are actually the consciousness. So we should become conscious of our thoughts, of our mind, of our intelligence, how they are working in pursuit of sense gratification. And then when we realize that this is dushpurena, this running after all these things is not going to satisfy me, how to put off the fire? And for that, Narottam Das Thakur is giving this instruction that Nitai Pada Kamala Koti Chandra Sushitala Echaya Jagata Judai. And then he's saying, the whole world can take shelter of the lotus feet of Nityananda Prabhu. And then the song goes, Heno Nitai Bhine Bhai Radha Krishna Pai Tenai Druda Kori Dharo Nitai Pai. Heno Nitai Bhine Bhai. This is the nature of Nityananda Prabhu. He can give shelter at his lotus feet, and whole world can find relief there. Judai means relief. When you are blazing in your blazing fire, what do you need? You need relief, right? And lotus feet of Nityananda Prabhu can give that relief. Heno Nithai Bhine Bhai. Without that, if you don't take shelter of Nityananda Prabhu, Radha Krishna Pai Tenai, you can never attain Radha Krishna. If you want to attain Radha Krishna, you must take shelter of Nityananda Prabhu's lotus. Drudha Kori Dharo Nithayar Pai. Hence, make a firm determination. Narottam Das Thakur is advising us. Or we must advise our mind. Hold on. Dharo Nithayar Pai. Drudha Kori. Firmly hold on to the lotus feet of Nityananda Prabhu. Nitai na bholile mukhe, majilo samsara sukhe. So these are all very beautiful instructions of Narottam Das Thakur. If you don't chant Nityananda's name, if you don't call out to Nityananda Prabhu, what will happen? Majilo samsara sukhe. You will be absorbed in material pleasures. You see, we come to Krishna consciousness understanding that yes, I must not be running after sense gratification. That was just an intellectual conviction. It is possible, even in spiritual culture, we can be looking for sense gratification, gross or subtle. That is called Majilo Samsara Sukhe. Still be absorbed in material pleasures, even in the spiritual life. It's possible because we are an institution. And in an institution, you have designations, you have titles, you have hierarchies, you have different facilities given in the institution. We could be running after all these things in the institutional format and be absorbed in That is why Majilo samsara sukhe. Samsara sukhe majilo, being absorbed in material pleasures. We should come to this realization that no, I should not be after these material pleasures. When can you achieve that? When will you come to that? Unless you chant and call out Nityananda Prabhu. That's what Nitai na bolile mukhe. You don't call out for Nityananda's help, for his mercy. Samsara majilo samsara sukhe. Vidya khule ki khori bethar. All your great learning, Vidya, Kule, great society, great family you were born in, Kula, great Kula, Vidya Kule, Ki Khori Bethar. None of these things are going to actually give you relief. It's not going to help you. So don't run after these things. Call out Nityananda Prabhu's holy name and he will free you from Majilo Samsara, being absorbed in material pleasures. Like this Narottam Das Thakur's wonderful prayers. And that will bring us to a state of consciousness that Parikshit is talking about. Mahatam khalu viprarshe uttama shloka padayo chaya nirvrutha chitta. It can bring us to a state where we are very, very peaceful, very, very satisfied, under the shade of the lotus feet of the Lord, where we won't be pursuing sense gratification, which is actually a blazing fire. And hence, when one is in such a shelter of the shade of the lotus feet of the Lord, na kutumbe spruha matihi. One's consciousness will not be attached to just pleasures of family life. This is what I have heard. But then, Viprarshe, you said that Priyavrata was such a great Mahatam, great devotee. But you are saying he gave up all that, renounced life, and he came and became married, got married. Not one wife, two wives, and had many children, and started ruling. How did this happen? What is going on? It looks like a contradictory thing. He must have been a Nivritta Chitta. He was under Uttama Shloka Padayo Chaya. So what happened to him? Can you please explain? So this whole chapter is unfolding of this wonderful features of devotional service. Prabhupada will point out in these verses and these purports. We'll continue to discuss. We'll stop here. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.